All right, this is Ubaid on behalf of V Electronics, and in this video, we'll be talking about the concept of arbitrage and purchasing power parity. All right, so let me write this down over here. This is arbitrage and purchasing power parity. Let's say purchasing power parity, PPP. So starting with the concept of arbitrage, this has to do with exchange of goods and currency. Okay, whenever you have a cross-border transaction, okay, what's going to end up happening is as the currency value in one country goes down, people will go ahead and buy from that country and sell it in a country where the currency goes up. Okay, where the prices go up, where the currency goes up. And generally, the trend is that of an economy getting out of recession with high GDP growth. Okay, as a result of which people will go ahead and sell their good or currency in a country where there is economic growth, where the purchasing power is going up, where the prices are going up, prices of goods and services are going up, as well as the currency exchange rate is going up. Okay, so if we compare US and Canadian dollar, for example, okay, let's say because of some reason the value of US dollar goes down and the value of Canadian dollar goes up. So in that case, let's say because of tariffs. So in that case, what's going to end up happening is, right, people will buy goods in the US, okay, or currency in the US, and they will sell Canadian currency. Okay, they will sell that currency in Canada. So they will buy it less, they will buy when the price is less, and they will sell when the price is more. Okay, so buy when the price is less and sell when the price is more or where the price is more. All right, so if we look at US and Canadian dollar, okay, when the price of US dollar goes up, okay, people will sell in the US. When the price goes down, people will buy in the US. Okay, so let's say you buy a vehicle in the US. You buy a vehicle in the US. This is when one US dollar may be $1.10 Canadian. All right, so you buy a vehicle in the US and then you sell this vehicle. Okay, you sell this vehicle in Canada. Okay, for whatever the price is times $1.10. Okay, so let's say the price is 20K in US dollars. Okay, this will be 22,000 Canadian dollars. So 22K Canadian dollars. All right. Now, the reason why you would sell the vehicle in Canada is because the currency exchange rate is such where the Canadian dollar is going up. So Canadian dollar is appreciating. Okay, and let's assume that the exchange rate, okay, 2 years ago was Okay, so here the US dollar is stronger compared to this time frame over here when the US dollar is weaker. So in that case, people will buy from Canada, okay, and sell in the US. Okay, so you buy in Canada and sell in US. You buy a vehicle in Canada and sell in US because if you buy a vehicle in Canada, okay, you will be buying that vehicle. Okay, so let's assume that this is 20K in US. So this will be 21,000 Canadian compared to 22K. So you're buying it for 21K Canadian and you're selling it for 20K US. All right. Now, the reason for this is because generally when the economy is in a downward spiral, so let's say there is a recession in the country, you have slow production, okay, slow GDP growth, okay, as a result of which you have a reduced demand. People stop consuming, people invest, people save, but they don't consume. And when people don't consume and your GDP is low, the demand is low, the price level of certain elastic goods and services will be low as well. Okay, and by elastic, we're talking about non-essential items. All right, and a vehicle might be one of them compared to other necessities like food, water, shelter, okay, so on and so forth. Okay, because you do have alternatives for vehicle, you have transportation alternatives, you have public transit, okay, you have taxi services, okay, you have Uber, so on and so forth. So people may not buy a vehicle when the prices are high. Okay. People may buy a vehicle when the prices are low. Okay. However, um, generally when the recession hits, the consumption goes down as a result of which there is a reduced demand. And because of this reduced demand, people will stop buying altogether to some extent. Okay. So despite the fact that the price level, the prices might be low, because of a reduced demand, okay, people will still consider alternatives when it comes to getting a vehicle. All right. So in that case, when people do end up um, buying a vehicle in a country which has been hit by a recession, for example, and selling it in a country which is experiencing a GDP growth and economic expansion, they will make profit out of that venture. And this profit has to do with this concept over here, arbitrage. All right, so whenever you have cross-border transactions, as a result of which you make profit, which lead to a profit for a business or an individual, okay, this has to do with this concept over here, arbitrage. All right, now the purchasing power parity, okay, this has to do with market rate. Okay, so you have your exchange rate over here, your regular exchange rate, and the other one is your market exchange rate. So this is market exchange rate. So in a regular exchange rate, okay, what's going to end up happening is, okay, you will have um, a currency, a domestic currency being compared against a foreign currency. So let's say you have one US dollar. This will be compared against a foreign currency. Okay, so let's say, for example, this is one Canadian dollar or 1.10 Canadian. Okay, so let's say $1.10 Canadian. So you're comparing domestic currency against a foreign currency, and this has to do with relative exchange rate. Okay, so you're comparing two currencies altogether. All right. On the other side, you have your market exchange rate where you're comparing the GDP, okay, with the exchange rate. You're using the GDP as a reference point of view, and you're using that GDP to figure out the difference in exchange rates. Okay, so let's say the GDP of the country is, okay, $200 billion, and the exchange rate stays the same. So you'll basically divide, this will be 200 billion, okay, divide by, okay, this will be $1.10 Canadian over $1 US. All right, so that comes around, okay, 181.82. Okay, this is billion dollars. All right, so this is basically your market exchange rate. You're using GDP to figure out your market exchange rate. For exchange rate, for a regular exchange rate, you're simply using the currency for two countries. All right, now the market exchange rate has to do with your PPP, which is purchasing power parity. This is purchasing power parity. Purchasing power parity. All right, and because this market rate has to do with purchasing power parity, okay, what we are going to do is use this PPP for two reasons. Okay, number one, this is to compare GDP and other stats, economic stats. So compare, this is compare GDP and other economic stats. And number two has to do with, okay, predicting the behavior of the market exchange rate. Okay, so you're trying to figure out the behavior, predicting behavior. And Pat, it could be for the sake of investment, it could be for the sake of purchase, right? You're trying to buy something as a result of which you need to figure out what the exchange rate will look like in the future. So you may have to use your market exchange rate. Okay, so predicting um, your exchange rate patterns. So exchange rate patterns. All right, so that would be it for this video. On behalf of V Electronics, this is Obey. Have yourself a great day.